Hi, this is Margaret from Civic Nebraska's voting rights team, and today we're going to be taking a look at the history of voting by mail, sometimes referred to as absentee voting. Joining us later in the call is Lieutenant Colonel James Murphy, retired, and he's going to talk a little bit about absentee voting. To understand the history about voting by mail on American shores actually predates the formation of the United States, and from the beginning it has been closely associated with military service. In December 1775, a group of soldiers from the Continental Army sent a letter back to their town asking if their votes could be counted in the local election. The town agreed to count the votes as if the men were present themselves. Absentee voting expanded even further during the Civil War. In 1862, Missouri became the first state to allow absentee voting. Nearly all states in the Union had established voting procedures for men serving at the front in time for the 1864 election. 6 of the 11 Confederate states did likewise. With 8 million men and women serving overseas during World War II, issues arose with how they could exercise their voting rights while simultaneously serving their country. The Soldier Voting Act was enacted on September 16, 1942. It ensured members of the armed forces could vote in federal elections, such as the president and for the U.S. Senate and House, whether or not they were previously registered and regardless of poll tax requirements. The law provided for the use of a postage-free and a federal postcard application to request an absentee ballot. The Federal Voting Assistance Act of 1955 expanded absentee voting from just accommodating persons serving in the military to include civilian government employees serving overseas. The Overseas Citizens Voting Rights Act, signed by President Ford on January 2, 1976, granted all U.S. citizens living overseas the right to vote in federal elections. In 1986, it was replaced by the Uniform and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act. As a result of controversy surrounding ballots received in Florida from overseas voters in the 2000 presidential election, the act was replaced by the Help America Vote Act in 2002 and the National Defense Authorization Act in 2005. The Military and Overseas Voter Empowerment Act of 2010 included a requirement that absentee ballots in federal elections be sent to overseas voters at least 45 days before Election Day. It also modernized provisions to include electronic transmission of ballots. Of course, during all this time, the states were busy themselves independently enacting their own rules for absentee voting in state and local elections. Between 1911 and 1924, 45 of 48 states adopted some kind of absentee voting. In some cases, these laws required voters to have a specific reason or excuse to vote absentee, such as travel or illness. Today, registered voters can vote absentee in all 50 states, though 16 states still require an excuse to do so. In 1998, Oregon became the first state to hold an all vote by mail election. Now 5 states conduct what is commonly referred to as all mail elections. In these states, voting is conducted primarily, although not exclusively, by mail. These states are Colorado, Hawaii, Oregon, Utah, and Washington. So I did say we have Lieutenant Colonel James Murphy joining us. He's retired, and we're just asking him the question that we have posed to all the people who have joined us in our history series. What does voting mean to you? Can you tell us, Colonel, what does voting mean to you?
Voting to me is, and to almost all members of the military, is very important for a couple reasons. One reason would be that the military comprises less than 1% of the United States population have actually ever served in the military. But our state and federal elected officials use the military many times, either overseas or in the United States for disasters. So there's many times that the military is putting their lives on the line. And I think it's important that we have a voice in who is putting us in the line of fire, or who is taking care of our benefits. So I think it's important that the military votes, or has the right to vote, and gets to vote overseas or absentee, because we have so much on the line personally. But also, I think that the just having been overseas, and in fact, it really motivated me to think about voting when I got back from Iraq, because when we were in Iraq in 2009, we were helping the Iraqi people vote, and they had not voted for many years. And just the sheer joy and ecstasy and what they were willing to do just to be able to vote really brought a whole new meaning to me, and I think to many of the soldiers that were over there witnessing a country that was voting for the first time in many, many years. So it's more than, and I believe that the military has a significant population of people that they're there to serve. And so I believe that they, because they already have they're already serving their country, they feel almost like an obligation or a duty to vote. So it's very important to military and military personnel to be able to vote.
Well, thank you. And I like that, the little the little story you told about Iraq. And I think it does make you, when you see people who have been denied their voting rights, get to see them exercise them. It really is kind of a feeling of empowerment. So if you are interested in helping to further democracy, we would love to have you sign up as a voting rights advocate with Civic Nebraska. And I know during this time of social isolation, it can be hard to work on issues that you care about, but we've made it very easy for you. We have what we call our outreach circle, which is an online platform that our volunteers can use to safely work on issues from right at home. So it's very easy to sign up. You can scan the QR code on the screen or visit the link that's down at the bottom of the page. Thank you again, Lieutenant Colonel, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching.